Hello, I'm Glovin from Heroglyphs. I'm one of the co-authors of the Heroglyphs white paper. Yeah, I would like to start the talk about a very powerful tool that amplifies our voice and propels our message into the spotlight. It's called memes, and actually a lot of people thought we were doing a meme NFT project because we sold NFTs, obviously. And these NFTs were actually symbols for each chains. Um, So it was like a cultural abstract of each chains and each ecosystems. And the reason why I wanted to tap into this culture and those communities was because, especially if you're trying to communicate a very specific message with a lot of people, community is very important. And those communities were the biggest unit of the community in our whole ecosystem. So that's why we wanted to tap into that culture. And these NFTs really helped us set the stage for what we wanted to talk about. And the degeneracy and the speculation and all those joyful vibes within the community actually helped our very serious topic to be more approachable to a broader audience. So how it works. So if we view hieroglyphs from the lens of token launch, most tokens are typically launched through these 3-layer funnels. So on the launch phase, it's about setting up the stage. So this is where every token's journey starts. We craft a narrative. We configure the parameters like total supply, like emission schedules. And after the launch phase, it enters the distribution phase. So for Bitcoin, it was mining through the miners. And for most conventional tokens nowadays, it's mostly airdrops and points. And on the exchange layer, finally, it's where the token finds a real-world value. It's where a token becomes something that can be traded. So it can be in the form of DEX, CEX, bonding curves, and even OTC. So in hieroglyphs, what we're trying to do is making a difference in the distribution layer. So in hieroglyphs, once the token is launched, the token is primarily distributed through the mining of complete validators. And we also consider this to be the purest form of distribution. So just as Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator himself of Bitcoin, had to mine his own token and was primarily distributed through miners, the tokens that are launched in hieroglyphs that are mined through the mining of complete validators on Ethereum. So it's somehow akin to the merge mining, but it's on top of Ethereum. Not only that, with this new distribution layer, we actually leave the other 2 layers blank, like a canvas for other artists and developers to come up and build on top. So they can come up with their new narratives and new memes. If you're an artist, if you have a unique artwork with a creative narrative, you can launch your own meme coin here. And if you're a builder, if you have a cool new idea for a cool bonding curve and exchange mechanism, pump that fun, especially if when we're seeing a lot of deflationary mechanisms attached to those meme aspects, it's a canvas for those kind of builders to experiment those financial primitives. And so this coordination game, the NFT that we saw, back to the NFT, was about showcasing what could be built on top of hieroglyphs, what kind of experiment is possible in the exchange layer, as well as the launch layer. So as I've covered in the beginning, those NFTs were symbols and representation of each chains. And there are tokens that are linked to each NFT. So if you bought, so the NFT Kabosu has a linked token called Kabosu as well. So it follows the same narrative and the same artwork. So that was like the narrative part of it. And of course, it's mined through complete validators, but with an additional criteria added on, which is that the validators had to hold these NFTs in order to mine the token that are linked to those NFTs. And on the exchange layer, with the profits of these NFTs, we didn't buy a sandwich with it. 98% of those profits was used to provide single-side liquidity against those tokens that are launched and mined through Hieroglyphs Validator. So yeah, the game was complex. Not a lot of people got it, but we wanted to push the possibility to the extreme so that we can showcase everything that's possible, so that we can encourage other builders to imagine what they can build on top. And so yeah, end users, us, we just have to enjoy the culture. With new narrative, artists can launch a new token, builders can build an innovative financial exchanges on top of it. And if you're a pumped up phonetic, you can launch your own token and more. So to get into the details, so graffiti, it's the most important concept in our mining process. The whole mining thing is about graffiti. I've seen a lot of graffiti in the city, which I liked it, but anyways. To give you a little bit of context, if you're a validator at ETH2, you get to access to various aspects of validation. So you get to propose the block, you get to attestate, and also you get to leave a digital signature called graffiti. So graffiti is just like a Twitter bio. If you're a validator, so the primary use case of graffiti before Heroglyphs was saying who validated this block or what kind of client that the validator have used. So it was pretty much like a Twitter bio, but with Heroglyphs. Let's say I've launched a hero token. When validator leaves hero, the token ticker and the wallet address he wants to mine the token to, after he leaves those graffiti according to the syntax rule, the token is mined and it's distributed to the validators every block according to the emission schedule that I have configured. So that's it. That's how the whole distribution layer works. And the best part is that graffiti is just an extra data field. So it has the potential to have a lot of things built on top, but it's just an extra data. It's not processed. So it does not exert any pressure on top of the base layer, nor the validators who run the node. So this is where we want to draw a clear line between ordinals, inscriptions, and hieroglyphs, because a lot of people actually consider us to be the ordinals or inscription of Ethereum. Partly right, partly wrong. The thing that I want to draw a very clear line is that, so Bitcoin, for Bitcoin, they had a very important problem to be solved in the long term, which is increasing the profitability of miners, because they had to sustainably incentivize those miners even after the emission schedule ended. And how they did it? With ordinals, they spammed the network, but which in turn made the block space valuable and increased the miners' profitability. So it was a great fit for Bitcoin, where they were struggling to find a clear use case for their block spaces, but Ethereum were kind of at capacity. So we're always have more demand than the supply of the block space. So we did not want to exert any extra pressure on the base layer while changing the game. And the part of what I think is similar to ordinals is that people were able to contribute to the ecosystem while them just enjoying the cultures. So I'm not sure if that was the intention of the ordinals developers or not, but what they did was letting people enjoy the culture while actually contributing to the ecosystem, solving a very important problem in their ecosystem. Same for us. What we're solving is this: decentralizing validator dynamics. So to fully grasp what it is, we first have to understand what they actually do. What do validators do? In a very high level overview, they stake 32 ETH and they run a validator. So ideally, we need a very broad group of complete validators, individuals who serve both roles independently. But with liquid staking providers, vast amount of ETH is aggregated to those liquid staking providers and is placed under the control of few node operators. And that, of course, centralizes the power of ETH validation, but I'm not saying that we have to take them all down. Lido and all those liquid staking providers has contributed to the ETH ecosystem. It has lowered the entry barrier for the ones who are only able to contribute economically, but it's just that we need a proper balance between safety that is achieved with a bit of efficiency that comes from centralization and decentralization. So that's why we need to have more complete validators. They are independent validators who serve both roles, so they don't rely on intermediaries that have the risk of consolidating the powers. And there's a clear reason why we aren't taking actions, why there aren't much like complete validators. First, it's really hard to realize the power. It's something very vague. You can't even touch it. I like to think of problems with a 2x2 metric, one importance, another one urgency. Many people might understand that this is an important matter, but urgency might not be too apparent. So, because the problem is not knocking on their door tomorrow, maybe not today. So it's really easy to turn a blind eye and sacrifice what we don't see for what we momentarily gain. And even if we climb past the understanding hurdle, we have another problem that there is no economic incentive at all for being a complete validator. So there's nothing exclusive for complete validator. You just get the yield, you just get the same MEV profit exposure from liquid staking providers, but just with more technical complexities and a bit of mental illness. So we need something exclusive to complete validators that has economic value, so that participating in decentralization does not only feel good, but actually pays off. So on the first problem, obviously, since we have the problem lined, we already solved the problem like 50%. So we can materialize this very abstract concept of power and privilege into something that is concrete, that we can touch. If we can make this power dynamics visible, we won't give it that easily. So on the economic incentive side, it's about answering the question of how do we make this process of making Ethereum decentralized not only necessary but desirable. Obviously, more incentive, economic or non-economic, giving more incentive to become a complete validators, giving more perks that is exclusive to being a complete validator. So graffiti is actually the symbol for this realization. So what we're doing is converting graffiti that was thought to be worthless and transforming into mining power that has that can actually create a value. Then people will realize what they're actually giving away, and it also acts as an incentive. So it's an incentive for people to reclaim the control that they've been given away without even recognizing. So higher the token price, higher the value of tokens, higher the value of the mining power, and bigger the incentive that is exclusive to complete validators. So this, everything, it was the context behind this diagram. So it's like, so if you look at petroleum refinement, there are tens of thousands of byproducts. They're mostly useless if you don't refine it well. It's same for Ethereum validation. So there are some values that clearly have economic stakes, but if you look at graffiti that has never been thought that is valuable, is now refined with hieroglyphs to have a real value, a real mining power to create a value, and to incentivize more complete validators to come up. And if you zoom out a little bit, when the validator writes something on the graffiti, according to the syntax rule, our transcoder reads all of those blocks, all of those attestations, and it actually triggers a smart contract action. In this case, the smart contract action we're talking about is distribution of tokens, but it can actually be anything. So this is another area of experiment that we want to continue on. Like what other smart contract actions could be triggered with the graffiti and the Heroglyphs protocol? So if, not sure what it could be, but if that smart contract action is something valuable and something that has value in it, then it also works as an incentive that is exclusive to complete validators. And the third problem, lowering the entry barrier. There is a high entry barrier in becoming a complete validator. not everyone has the technical capability of running and even starting a validator. So there are actually amazing protocols who are already helping all those. You have Stakehouse, who helps you run a validator with your friends, a very simple version of DVT. Rocket Pool, obviously, you have mini pools. Stakewise, it gives you liquid staking tokens, even if you're a solo complete validator. And that node obviously helps you run a node. So I personally consider them 200 IQ teams. So they're focusing on lowering the entry barrier for everybody to join as a complete validator and removing opportunity costs for becoming a complete validator. So while they focus on lowering the entry barrier side, what we can focus on is continue to doing the 60 IQ play to only focus on the incentive side and to potentially collaborate with this team to effectively solve the problem. So yeah, this is our strategy. It's to package a very serious message into something that could be hilarious, something that could be irresistible, something into a meme. So it's not just about fun images, and it's more about a Trojan horse that really helps us spread our message in the most contagious way as possible. If the talk was inspiring enough to make you want to build something on top of Heroglyphs, I'm here until Thursday, so feel free to hit me up. I'm really happy to have a chat. Thank you.
Any questions for Glovin? All right. Thank you, Glovin.